but I got it. New stool for the welding table. Let's put it together real quick. Perfect. Okay everyone, now that they got the stool taken care of, I can welcome you back to the channel. Today we're going to be working on the welding table a little bit. We're actually going to be making welding table clamps. A welding table clamp is essentially a bolt that goes through the table. It has a clamp that can apply downward pressure onto whatever item you're working on, and it'll hold it in place on the table. The problem is a welding table clamp, just one, can cost 50 bucks minimum. So what we're going to do today is we went to Harbor Freight. I picked up 8 of these 12-inch quick release clamps for $3.99 each, and I picked up about 8 of these 5/8" bolts. The 5/8" bolt fits perfectly into the slots on the table. What we're going to do is we're going to cut the thread off the bolt. We're going to slot the head of the bolt, take off this end of the clamp, weld that end of the clamp onto the bolt, and we have a perfect welding table clamp. So that's what we're going to work on right now. Let's get to it. So there's a rivet holding the end of this piece on the clamp. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to pop this rivet out, take this end piece off, and this is the end that gets welded onto the head of the bolt. So I think first we're going to start with slotting the heads of the bolt. That's probably going to be the hardest part, is just making a slot that this end will actually fit into. So we're going to do that right now. So right here I have my grinder ratcheted down to the welding table, the grinding wheel on the grinder. We're going to use this to actually carve out a groove in the head of the actual bolt. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm going to use a punch to actually punch the rivet out of the actual clamp head. I'm going to try anyway. Just going to position the rivet over top of the hole. Hopefully pop this down through. Got it out. slides off really easy. What's left with this? The bolt will go on this end right here. And that'll tighten down to the table and you can fine tune it to where you want it. 1 down, 7 to go. All the clamps, I've had the ends removed. Now we need to get back to slotting the end of the bolts. I think I might plop them down in here and just use the grinder this way with a cutting wheel. That way I don't have to hold the bolt. The bolt gets hot. The slot's got to be big enough to actually fit the end of this into it like this. Then you tighten it down. I'm going to weld these together at a slight angle inward towards the clamp side. So when it clamps down, it's going to straighten itself back up, tightening down. Basically how these work is they bind themselves into these 5/8 inch holes, the 5/8 inch bolt. It just binds itself a little bit crooked in the hole and you can't pull it out once you bind it in there. So that's what we're going to work on now. Show you what I just did. I cut a groove into the actual bolt head. This is just going to slide right in here like this, just enough so we have a lot to weld around it now. That's all we're going to do for 7 more. Alright, so now we have all of the bolts slotted. We're going to cut off the threaded part of the bolt as we don't need it. When it drops into the table, we really only need it to be about 1/2 inch long. I'm going to leave it a little bit longer and just cut off the threaded part. I've got the bolt clamped in place. I'm going to use the cutoff wheel on the grinder to actually cut these. Got all the bolts cut off. I'm going to use the grinder, just smooth some of these burrs out, maybe put a nice little bevel on the edge, then they'll fit down in these holes, just like that. So I used the grinder and I got all these cleaned up more or less. I'm going to put the flat one on the grinder, just hit them up and finish them up a little nicer. down, cleaned up. I have to actually, I'll use the flap wheel, and I've got to clean the ends of these to get the paint off of them, so we can actually weld these clamps into the bolts. I'm going to make a jig so I know exactly how high up and how far over I'm going to have these bending. Bolts are all cleaned up, they're cut, they're polished, nice and neat, nice and smooth. Let me get this unclamped off the table. We'll start working on a jig to mount that in the table, clamp this in place where we want it, and tack it in place. Figure out how to do that now. It's going to get clamped into place right here. The bolt's going to go on this hole. I'm going to mark the angle I want on this. Once this is in place, once this is perfectly horizontal, clamp it here, zip it. Now, this is clamped nice and firm in place. I set this down in here. That's pretty much centered to the bolt where I want it to be. Now I just need to figure out how much do I want this angled. I'm going to bring you in closer and show you exactly what I have going on. So this is the jig I have set up right now. This is just an angled piece of 1/4-inch steel I had left over from the street rod project I'm working on with 52 Chevy. Got that clamped in place. So the clamp clamps to this piece I welded in right here, and then this piece right here is acting as a stop. So the bolt goes here, this fits down into the slot, gets clamped against this plate right here, pushed forward till it touches this piece right here. Left and right here is perfectly level, and then I have a slight lean going forward for the clamp. Because when you ratchet this down, this is actually going to tighten up and stand back up this way a little bit. So that's the goal right now, is I'm going to get all these, I'm going to weld one in place just to make sure, and we're going to try the clamp out and see how it actually works. So we're going to do that right now. This is what it looks like all welded up. Might hit it with the flap wheel just a little bit just to clean it up. But here you go. Welding table clamp, less than $5. I figure in a couple hours I can crank out 8 of these, or a normal one's $50, and it operates the exact same way. So I think that's a win. Check this out. Welding table clamps. Just lower them down. Fine tune your adjustment with this. And when you're done, you just push this little silver lever right here. Kind of hard to do with one hand. And they go right back up again. Now, I can pretty much take these, just plop them anywhere I want on the table. Tighten stuff down right there. Boom. About $400 in clamps I made for 40 bucks. Not bad. Just going to clean up the ends of these with the flat wheel. Make them look pretty. Alright, so the last thing I'm going to do right now is there's these little plastic caps on all of these clamps. Being that we're going to be welding primarily metal, we don't want the plastic caps on there as they'll obviously melt. So all they do is they slide right off just like that. I'm going to hang on to these caps. Who knows, someday I might need to clamp something down. I don't want to mar up with a metal end on the clamp. So we'll just save these for the later, but as you can see, the clamps are completely done at this point. I'm going to take a little bit of oil and just wipe everything down, keep it from rusting. Got a dirty rag. Works pretty good. Don't need a lot. Just a little sheen on it. So this is just a mock setup of what you can actually do with the welding table and the welding clamps and some extra 5/8 inch bolts. See the flat spot of the 5/8 inch bolt allows you to just bump this right up against it nice and flush to here. Clamp it in place. Then you do the same going this way, the other way. Now you've got a perfect 90-degree bend right here. So everything's nice and precise on the welding table, and the clamps work perfect. Alright everyone, that's me wrap for this video. As you can see, the welding table clamps now have been completed. They function perfectly just as they should. I'm very pleased with the results. I showed you how to do them, so hopefully you can save a little money and make your own. In the next video, we're going to be getting back on working on the 52 Chevy behind me. Hopefully we're going to be getting into the exhaust work, shock work, anything that I needed to get up underneath, it's now on the lift behind me, so I'm in great shape to start working on that. When we work on the exhaust, we can lay the stainless exhaust down on here, and we can actually TIG it together. I actually have a TIG that's going to be coming up in another video. We're going to be unboxing the TIG. A lot of stuff coming up, so please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification icon down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.